Yes, I will be brief because Joseph has said almost everything that could be said on, no problem, on the ideological penetration of oncology. So I have some examples that he did not give, but I will be brief, and this is not a figure of style. It will be, it's true. As you know, science and medicine are now completely invaded by strange articles, completely out of sane conceptions, and precisely Joseph has already mentioned in the paper some titles such as Queer Identity and Theory Intersections in Mathematics Education. I don't know what it means.
Vous êtes trop sur le bar, j'ai peur que vous reculiez, vous allez tomber.
Oh, je me ramasserai.
Si vous parlez, vous reculez, vous allez tomber.
Je me ramasserai, c'est gentil. So, I don't know what queer identity has to do with mathematics education. Another one is a web site where quantum physics explanation for polyamory, BDSM, and queer people. I don't know what this has to do. And I discovered a site devoted to the decolonization of light. And this is somewhat surprising to try to decolonize light. Of course, Newton has had the possibility of discovering that light was made of several wavelengths and so on, and but so he did not think of decolonizing light. And an example, the problem is not so recent. Le mal vient de plus loin, comme dit Fell dans Racine. En 1994, Gross and Levy, in Higher Superstition, had presented the teaching program they found at the New York State University education of non-mathematicians that wanted to have an introduction to mathematics. And as you see, the purpose of the education of this course was, after taking this course, the student will be able to describe the political nature of mathematics and mathematics education, describe gender and race differences in mathematics and the sociological consequences, and so on. You can read, as well as I do, critically evaluate Eurocentrism and androcentrism in mathematics. I don't know how that could make a progress in mathematics. So I've known, well-known André Weil, who was a famous mathematician and who happens to be the uncle of my wife, and this is why I knew him. And he has taught in India, he has taught in Brazil, he has taught in America, in Chicago, and he ended his career in Princeton. He did not enter the Collège de France because he was told that there were already so many Jews in the Collège de France that another one was a little bit too much. And the best students he had in all his career over the world were Indian students because they were more rapid to understand and more imaginative. I don't know exactly, but so this has nothing to do with genes. It has probably much to do with career, with culture, with wanting the desire of developing new things and so on. It has to do with culture rather than work. This is presently clearly encouraged by editors and publishers because, for instance, when you submit a paper to sell, a big, very big journal with high impact factor, the Springer Cell Group, you may, it's not compulsory, but you may indicate some items whether one or more of the authors are self-identified as an underrepresented ethnic minority inside, or is self-identified as a member of the LGBTIQ plus community. Disability also may be
indicated when you submit a paper. My question is, and so on, what is the purpose of such a questioning? Is it to obtain a favor because you're gay, because you're a woman, because you're black or Latinx, Latins? This is not religious. You do science, you do not. You don't do science as a gay, as a woman, as a disabled people. I've well known the great biochemist, Max Fernand, who was blind from the age of 20. And he would have said so. Why should I indicate that I am blind? That does not prevent me to do science. And indeed, he had all the time being a great list of publications, and he created really something important. And the last item is, while citing references scientifically relevant to this work, we also actively work to promote gender balance in our references. But when you look at the papers, sometimes you have only the initials. Sometimes you have the full first name, but we have in France at least two first names common between males and females. In America, this is certainly much more. For instance, the son of Woody Allen, first name is Satchel. How can you tell whether Satchel is a guy or a girl? This is completely stupid, and only with our French or Anglo-Saxon culture. But try to imagine the sex of a Chinese. I'm sorry, but the first names, and you cannot have the sex. And so, what can be proposed? What will be proposed probably in a few years will be, after the names of the authors in the manuscript that you send, you indicate 1, 2, 3 footnotes with University of Chicago, University of Groland, whatever you wish, whatever you are, indeed, in which university you are. But you will have someday to indicate male with the symbol of male or female, or both, or neither, and whether you are disabled and so on. So you will be able to know when you cite a reference, the work of author, you will be able to know whether it's a male or a female or it's something else. And this is completely stupid. I will make a German citate quoting me too. Not only Andreas is able to talk, he talks German fluently, I don't. But I know, mit der Dummheit kämpfen Götter Selbstvergebens. That is, with the stupidity, the gods themselves fight in vain. And this is from Friedrich von Schiller in the Jungfrau von Orleans, the French. Oncology is not spared from these abuses, and there again, the examples noticed by Joseph at the last meeting 2 years ago, with titles such as racial, ethnic disparities in local regional recurrence of a given cancer, real-world outcomes of black versus non-Hispanic white women with advanced triple-negative breast cancer. Of course, it's of major interest to study the ethnic differences in cancer incidence and outcomes, but this has to be studied using multivariate analysis, and I exactly the same talk, the same demonstration as Joseph, that you have to take into account in science several variables, and not only the color of the skin. And important also is the fact that ethnicity has to be determined by a generic approach and not self-determination, of course. And just something that Joseph did not mention, this is a paper that was published 2 years ago in a reputed journal, the Journal of the National Cancer Institute in America. Lower exome sequencing coverage, DNA sequencing, of ancestry African patients in the cancer genome atlas. In big databases with all the genomes of several thousands of tumors that were sampled, selected, and studied from clinical, from everything. And I'm presently a postdoc, indeed, I'm playing the role of a postdoc in the lab of a younger colleague, and who welcomes me every month to work. But in the meantime, I work on databases, so I know what is a database. And indeed, comparing the depth of the DNA sequence coverage between tumor genomes has no interest. It's much less interesting than comparing the incidence of the outcome of cancer in different populations. Well, I don't know what can be brought from the fact that 1 million of reads, that is the number of reads, yes, between the genome, the tumor genome of a white or a black person. And I carefully analyzed the paper, and I submitted the manuscript to refute the purpose even of the manuscript, of the paper that was written. I was not surprised. It was surprised. It was rejected. It was not indeed so. But it's available on the open scientific framework, and everybody can read it if you want. And this is an example of one of the figures, that is breast cancer, from the database of breast cancer. And you have African in red, European in blue, and so what? This is different, of course, but only one thing, only univariate analysis as a function of the color of the skin, and nothing else. There are 3 main flaws that we try to demonstrate in this paper. Scientific flaws, of course, monoparametric analysis. The ethnicity was not even defined, and as Luana said, some genomic traits, polymorphisms of Western Africans, Yorubas, are closer, more identical, more frequent, the same frequency to the polymorphisms of Europeans than to the polymorphism of Kenya. That is, for some traits, Senegalese are closer to Europeans than they are to Kenyans, with Eastern African. This is, and for some other traits, some other polymorphic traits, this is exactly the reverse. And second, this was based there again in an auto-assignment, by auto-assignment. And indeed, it has been demonstrated that at least 20% of difference exists between self-assignment in an ethnic group and what tells the genome that are now very well defined to know the ancestry of a person. And so, this is scientifically completely flawed. And indeed, it's based, and this is maybe what was not accepted by the editors of the TNCI, because I wrote that it was based on the US definition of race, not taking into account that the human species is highly homogeneous, and races do not exist. If you compare the genome of different races of dogs, you have many more differences in the genome between races of dogs than between humans, ethnic groups of humans. Second, sociologic flaws, because they also attribute to genetic causes, but must be attributed in regard to social economic causes. And it recalls me the sentence that was, I don't remember who told to Gerald Ford, it's the economy, stupid. Of course it's the economy. It's absolutely true that whites are richer than blacks, but whites have access to better social protection. Whites live longer. Whites die of cancer later than blacks. But this is because of social economy and for all the reasons that were already set up by colleagues in Nature Genetic 20 years ago. The health disparity are little to do with genetics, but rather derived from differences in culture, like socioeconomic status, access to healthcare, education, environmental exposure, social marginalization, discrimination, stress, and other factors. And indeed, this is absolutely necessary to take all these factors in consideration. And the third flaw in this type of approach, secondly, the philosophical flaws, because they base the analysis of an essentialist difference between whites and blacks. And indeed, there is no continuum in sex, but there is certainly a continuum in the color of the skin, with various types of brown, black, and so on, because of the mixing of the population, and especially in the States, where there are many marriages between children with both ethnicities, that what is white, what is black, what is white, what is black, is difficult. This is an essential approach to human population. There is no white and black nature. There is no feminine and masculine natures either. And of course, this is completely. And I forgot to mention the name of this last quoting. That categories are the groupings established by man for convenience within a vast continuum of forms in nature, and biological essentialism serve as an ideological basis for segregationism, considering differences established for practical convenience as different nature between men, and this is not acceptable from a philosophical point of view. And just to conclude, I have 2 minutes before 6:30. I don't know whether non-biologists know about the HeLa cells, and a book I've written about the story of the immortal, this is the title of the book, Immortal Life on Henrietta Lacks, who was a young black American woman, died at 31 years of age in 1950 from the devastating cervical cancer. Some cancers that were kept expanded in vitro, but in culture, and this was certainly one of the first successes of this technique. And the cells were completely immortalized, and they have lived in many laboratories, and a lot of work has been done. They have been used for decades for experiments first, demonstrate the role of so and so in the development of the culture, but also for the development of medicines, of vaccines, of antibodies. This has been, and this technique has contributed and voluntarily contributed to science. And it has been recently said that that was done without her consent and also without royalties, of course, but it was not the practice in 1950. There was no consent to use the tumor to develop research and also to develop medicines and so on. it was not a common practice. That could have been certainly the same for cancer cells of an old white man. But if it has been an old white man, well, even whose tumor had given rise to this immortal cell line. So it's got nothing to do with, and it would have been criticized even more heavily than the fact that it was a black woman. And I do think that it would have been better to develop, and it's still necessary not only to develop HPV, anti-HPV papillomavirus vaccines, and disseminate early cervix cancer detection for all women around the world, than rally for the recognition of the contribution of blacks to science. And it's my honor that one of my students 30 years ago, she got a thesis, the diploma of university doctorate. She was from Morocco. She went back to Fez, and she was responsible for a laboratory of detection of HPV in cervix samples. And we discussed some kind of epidemiology, and it's very interesting to see that progressively she has less and less, she diagnoses less and less cases of cervix cancer because the progress is there. And I hope that someday in her country, as well as all other countries, the detection will be, and the vaccines will be sufficiently widespread to put an end at the diagnosis of cervix cancer. And so I thank you for your attention.
Okay. So, good. Parce que je vous ai dit de vous casser. Okay, so, il y a toujours raison. Yves, c'est qu'il y a toujours raison.
No, I take care of it, that's what it means.
Okay. So, the thing is that, however, there are differences between men and women because of the hormonal hormones, and of course, these differences also in behavioral. There are differences, but of course, they are equal in front of the law. Okay, so that's the thing, but in fact, there are differences in disease, in behavior, and stuff like this. So it's not exactly the same. You know? So there are group differences, but of course, it's nice to have group differences. Why should we not serve? But why should we not have group differences? I'm not like him, you know. It's also it's an
individual source when writing race and culture said that it was such a pity to see all these cultures that are progressively disappearing.
Yeah. Okay. And in terms of cancer and oncology, what do you see? So now what's going on with this open justice? Can you elaborate a little bit more on social justice?
Social justice.
Justice in cancer.
So,
what is
so I give this example. Because they think, the authors think that it's absolutely unfair not to have sequences the same depth the genome of the black and the genome of the whites. And we don't have this problem in France, you know. I thought that was a US problem, and the US definition of race, this is not ours. And I would like to remind you, and that the second person of the state of France was from African ancestry for 6 or 10 years. He was in great opposition with de Gaulle in the 60s, and he was the president of the Senate for, I think he made a 9-year mandate at the head of the Senate, and nobody considered he was black or not. And we had also Martiniquese composer in the 18th century, the Chevalier de Saint-Georges, who was more accepted at the court by the Queen Marie Antoinette. He was more accepted and appreciated than Mozart when he came to France. So this is something which is important, I think. We have no segregation, and some people coming back from the Isles, as we said, that is from the Caribs, Antilles, and with the slaves, the slave should be immediately liberated,
freed.
Yeah, free. Because it was not possible in France to have the slave, and this is from the 14th century. In 1315, the King of France, Louis X, edicted something which has been followed over the centuries, that the land of France was franc, that is free, and that no soul be dead. And when we see that former minister of African descent, Amayade, who was a minister, and who immigrated after she goes to her election also to the States, and she said that she had a microaggression when they was going through the Boulevard Colbert, or the statue of Colbert, because Colbert had dedicated for the isles there again, the islands, for we see Antilles, a code noir, black code about how to handle the slaves, and she had a series a microaggression, but she never said that she had some recognizing feelings to the King Louis XI 4 centuries before. And so we don't have the same conception in France and in America. We don't have the same conception of race. We don't have the same conception of many things related to universalism in France and in the States, and we don't have to shame of our universalism, I think.
Okay, great, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We wanted to have a discussion just for part of an hour between the speakers. The only problem is that we don't have any mic anymore and cannot record it. So that's
like an hour over time.
May I suggest that we skip it and we discuss it during the dinner? Because now we're more than 40 minutes late. I begin to want to eat.
We're out of
And
water.
we're doing ourselves anyway.
just the final word.
Yeah.
Just the final word. So I would like to thank you. It was very a lot of point of views, very different point of views. And I think it will challenge this a little bit more thought. Maybe we need to papers to come in production. So we should review this. Maybe the next time we do it in Paris, because in Paris it's easier because there's a lot more people that we can get there, and I think we should repeat that, but in Paris this time. And it can be organized in a lot of places, so I have contacts over there. And there's no problem to organize it. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you for all the excellent talks there have been, and unfortunately, all the students of the university should have been here to listen to you and to listen to the talks and to learn much from other places of thought. Okay, critical, rational thinking.
I think we should thank Andreas for all the work he has done and changing the faces of